Hey y'all, welcome back to The Dish. It is your lovely, excellent, most beautiful host in the world, Anissa Sheely. This is our first filmed episode, so I'm super excited to bring this out for you. And today I am here with
Linda Soul. Hi, y'all.
Welcome. So today we are going to be dishing about Linda's experience as an independent artist of color, a woman of color in Chicago. I am super duper excited to get into this. So Linda, let's just have you introduce yourself. Who is Linda Soul?
What's up, y'all? I'm Linda Soul, Linda Soul, if you're feeling nasty.
Back to the kitchen, no luggage, love it. No dead ends, I cut it, trim. Making a leg on, out in the limb. Pulling my weight, I'm back to the gym. To the brim, I'm pouring up for the quarter of a century. With my dancing elementary. Got a couple old friends that's there to measure. Protect my energy.
I was born and raised on the west side of Chicago. I've been an artist since a young age, and I graduated from Stanford University in 2021. Since then, I've been back in Chicago working as a teaching artist and mentor, passing the mic to young creatives and empowering their voices. And I'm currently making music, performing around the city, growing and evolving with each and every day.
Amazing. All right, Linda, so what got you started making music?
Well, the first thing I ever wanted to be in life was a singer. I feel like singing chose me at a young age, and I used to perform for my family, sing all the time, and then I just had a lot of musical influences and creative influences generally. My dad DJs more like just as a hobby in the house, but lots of music in the household. My mom, she used to write poetry, and so she has a publication actually she used to pull out when I was a kid, which I felt like was really inspiring. And then my older sister, I'm the baby of four, my older sister was a part of the After School Matters program that taught the elements of hip hop to young teens, and I was like the baby sister she had to bring along. So I just fell into a lot of different creative practices, like from the age of 6, 7, I was writing poetry, I was dancing, singing, and eventually took more into poetry, and I found my way back to music with poetry. I feel like other people around me seen me as a rapper, as an artist before I did. Would tell me you have a cadence, you should make music, your poetry comes with a rhythm. And really what it came down to was wanting to be in the cypher. I would go to open mics, and I was just doing poetry at this time, maybe 16, 17, and after there would be a cypher, a bunch of rappers freestyling, and I wanted to be in the circle. So I started writing little rap, 16 bars, and when I went to college, I felt like it just kind of took off from there in a way that life called me to be an artist and make music, and I just haven't looked back since then.
That is so inspiring, especially I love how creativity is connected to your family, and I think that makes somebody's art come off as so much more real and so much more authentic because it's in your blood. Going from that last question, how have these sort of different paths that your life has taken really inspired you as an artist? Especially being an Ivy League graduate from the west side of Chicago is not something that we see quite often. That is a really unique path. So sort of describe your artistic journey through those different spaces that you found yourself in.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting journey for sure. I feel like my creative journey in Chicago was marked by the creative landscape of the city, the roots of hip hop here, the passion that people have here for poetry and wordplay and lyricism. I feel like that really shaped who I was as an artist from a young age. And being from Chicago, I feel like everyone from Chicago is very prideful about being from this city, and that was something that characterized a lot of my art. And so when I went to college, I was in the Bay Area, and honestly, I was homesick, and I felt like music was my way to connect back to being back home in Chicago. I dropped my first project when I was in college called 72, and it was actually about the bus line 72, the North Avenue bus. Dropping that project out in the Bay Area, throwing a release party, and it being all about Chicago, yet I was at Stanford in the Bay Area where I felt like I didn't fit in. Really, I felt like an outcast because although I'm this academic scholar, I feel like I didn't even say that right. The academia is leaving me. Although I'm an academic scholar, I felt like I still had a lot of personality that came from Chicago that was unfamiliar to folks out there, what they thought should be at a school like Stanford. And I felt like I really pushed those bounds because I felt like I'm gonna take up space here and represent my city, and music was my way to do that.
How does your Puerto Rican culture, and especially being a Chicago, Humboldt Park, bona fide Boricua, how does that sort of change your artistry or influence your artistry? How does that culture specifically show up in your music?
Yeah. You know, what's interesting is I felt like it didn't characterize my music as much until I left Chicago. I had an interesting experience being at Stanford, and for the first time ever having my identity, my racial identity being brought into question. I was honestly ignorant to that. Like growing up in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, it was very easy to reject identities of race and just say, oh, I'm Puerto Rican. And so when I went to Stanford, they're like, okay, but are you white? Are you black? Are you mixed? And I'm like, well, damn, I actually have a family that comes from all different walks of race when they're thinking about race, but we never talked about that. And like, why is that? And so my entire honors thesis at Stanford was exploring the anti-colonial identities of Puerto Ricans in Humboldt Park and the ways in which like the Puerto Rican Cultural Center and different Puerto Rican organizations that really started from the ground up in Humboldt Park are rooted in anti-colonial frameworks in a way that like 2-3 generations down, there's people like me who aren't talking about race, and there's an ignorance to it, and there's also a history of anti-colonial resistance as well. So it's a very interesting dichotomy in that conversation, and I feel like it was that learning period being at Stanford and widening my perspective of Puerto Ricans and the way that we fit into racial identities or lack thereof, because I think also race doesn't do a good job at categorizing the Caribbean diaspora. And just navigating that entire learning experience, I think, played a big part in my music now. I also felt the need to put on more for Humboldt Park, being away from Humboldt Park. So I started dropping some reggaeton songs, some Spanglish music.
Viva Puerto Rico. Siempre boricua la isla, mi gente de noche en las calles bailando a reggaetón. Siempre boricua Chicago, tú sabes, con ritmo y sabor, orgullo mi corazón. Siempre boricua.
And I always say, like, I'm a no sabo kid, so like my Spanish isn't perfect. It's broken Spanish, and I've always felt a bit like an outcast being a Puerto Rican, not knowing Spanish. But the way I see it too is like, you know, that's even the broken Spanish dialect tells a story of the diaspora and the movement of people and the ways in which we transform through generations. And so like, I mean, I think my existence and making music is that representation. And yeah, I do feel responsible for like telling that story, especially like in an era of like Bad Bunny, who's going so hard for Puerto Rico. And I think like reggaeton has always had a political framework to it. And so I'm really passionate about being able to like show up in those spaces and just show up for my people.
I love everything you just said, and I think that culture impacts our artistry and people aren't having those conversations. And that brings me to my next question. For you, what has your experience specifically been like as an independent female recording artist in Chicago? I definitely know that is a path that is hard to navigate and hard to understand, especially like we don't have as many, like the last big independent artist to blow from Chicago was Chance. Besides like Chief, we don't have any big female artists from Chicago where like, I don't want to say big female artists from Chicago, but big female artists from Chicago that are making music in the manner that you're making music. Like I feel like a lot of the stuff that comes out of the city, and this is no shade to the drill girlies because I love drill because that's somebody's story, but also I think that the way you are so melodic in your storytelling is definitely different. So what's that like being sort of a melodic rapper and having that journey not really have a path laid out for you in Chicago?
Yeah, I feel like I've always been a lone wolf with everything I do creatively. I've never had a manager. I've never had any sort of marketing team, booking team. Like everything I've done has been solo dolo, which has taught me a lot. I mean, it's been a big learning curve. Like I had to learn how to record myself, mix and master myself, do the graphics, put out the flyers, book the videographers, book the photographers, book the scenes, you know, I mean, like the creative direction. I feel like I carry all of the hats, which I love. Like it's such like a flex to be like, yeah, but like at the same time, it's real to also open yourself up and say like, I need support. And I feel like I'm at that place now where I'm ready to open myself up and get more support from people rather than just feeling like I have to do it all alone. And that's something I'm still navigating of like, what's that like? I got these ants and dirt all over me. I'm still navigating what that looks like for me. And I think it's all about building genuine relationships. But I mean, I feel like that comes from just being genuine myself and showing up for other people too. Like showing up at other people's shows and showing up at creative events. So it's a hard one, but I'm pushing through.
Yes. I think that especially as women of color too, we are so much less likely to ask for help.
Yeah.
We are told constantly that we have to be these strong, these empowered figures, but like I even struggle to ask for help. It took a lot of, it was a big thing for me today to call on my lovely, lovely cameraman, Femi, because I am a big girl and I always want to do things myself, but we have to work on leaning on our communities and finding those people in those spaces and places who can help us out and can support us. Because also sometimes people are not doing the support authentically. They're trying to get themselves on, and once they on with you, they're like, okay, I've had my fun, bye-bye. Like, no, I think in Chicago we have to do a better job of creating, especially for women and women artists, community that is authentic and valuable and that is sustainable. Sustainable over time. Because if we're not supporting each other, who the fuck is gonna support us?
That part.
Let's switch it up a little bit. How do you think that the internet and streaming has impacted the music industry, especially as an independent artist? I'm sure you're looking at those metrics and looking at how the platforms are paying people versus not paying people. What is your take on the online and digital age and how that impacts musicians?
For me personally, I feel like in the past 2 years, I looked at it as a sort of chore that felt like I just want to be the artist to get online and do all this promo and marketing. Like it felt so draining, especially because I was doing every part of the creative process up to that point of having a song, period. But now I really see, someone had said it on TikTok, and I love their perspective that like posting on TikTok is a gig. It's a free gig. You get in front of your audience and you get to show yourself. And so like treat it like a gig instead of like a chore. And so with that mentality, I feel like I've been able to have more fun with it because I love to perform. Like that's my favorite part about being an artist. So being able to like reframe it as like this is a gig, I can just get on stage or on my phone and perform. Now it feels better. Sometimes it feels taxing, but it also feels like we're in a different age, but a not so different age. Like the same way people back in the day used to try to meet that key person to get on the radio and get their stuff in front of different people. I feel like people are clawing today to get that hit and get in front of everybody, you know? So, I mean, it's as much as it is an opportunity as it is, feels like a chore to me. But I mean, I try to just like, I mean, being an artist is fun, but there's business to it. There's the business side, and part of that is marketing. And so like, I try to just like do what I gotta do and not overthink it, honestly.
All right. So while we're on the subject of streaming, let's talk about your most recent album, Moth. I listened to it. I really, really enjoyed it. I think everybody should go stream it. After you watch this interview, go stream Moth by Linda Soul. It's on all different platforms. Wonderful project. But what sort of inspired it and what birthed that project?
Yeah. Well, a lot of those songs were being created before I realized I was writing a project. But when I was in the place where I was like, okay, I feel like I'm in the time within my career to drop another project. I feel like my audience is ready for another body of work. I started to look at what I had and realize that I had a story of what I was going through at the time, which was my own metamorphosis. Moth is based on my own inner metamorphosis, and it's based on the symbolism of a Luna moth, which represents your intuition and like connecting to the higher priestess powers and the dark energy within you, and all of that was happening naturally in my music before I realized it was a body of work. And so it just came down to putting it together and really being able to put a name to it, Matters of the Heart, Moth. And so, yeah, that process came pretty naturally. I feel like sometimes songs write themselves, projects write themselves, and you look back and at the end and realize that you have something on your hands. So I feel like it embodies my journey as I had to explore the shadow parts of myself. Like Linda Sol represents the sun, but the Luna moth represents the moon, that darker side of myself, which I feel like I was just going through a time of my life that I couldn't avoid that, because I feel like I so easily do focus on the positivity and how I want to impact people, but like we all have that duality within us, and so that project was really my opportunity to explore that. Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit more of a fun question. What is one thing that you think that your audience would not know about you based on listening to your music?
Just like a random thing.
Random fact.
My audience wouldn't know I'm athletic, I guess. I played rugby for 5 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Rugby.
Rugby.
You was out there tackling the girl.
Yeah, I was out there tackling, very high contact sport. I played in high school, I played in college at Stanford. Shout out to the Stanford rugby team. I love rugby. I've considered rejoining rugby teams in Chicago all the time, but I've had one too many concussions, bunch of injuries, and I'm like, I don't know if it's worth it because I need my brain cells for this music shit. But I love rugby, huge rugby fan. I love to watch rugby, follow rugby, and catch me on the field.
Okay, and then who is your dream music collab?
I don't know if I have one. That's really hard. The first that popped in my head would be JID, Jid.
Ooh,
Big Jid fan.
the girl's got taste.
I sure do. I look up to his everything, his wordplay, his commitment to like a concept, his commitment to his rhythm. Just, I really respect his artistry.
So, Linda, if you could choose 5 words, just 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words to describe the music you make, what words would you choose and why would you choose those words?
Okay. Definitely introspective, self-evolving.
That's that Stanford showing girl.
Genre fluid, explorative, and is healing cliche?
I don't think that's cliche at all. I think music is Stevie Wonder said it best himself, like when he said music is the world within itself with a language we all understand. Like sometimes that music is like, I had a really bad day and I want to punch somebody, so I'm going to turn on Knuck If You Buck. Or I'm going through it with this nigga, so I'm going to turn on Cranes in the Sky. You know what I'm saying? That is not cliche at all. I think especially because it's your art, like who gives a fuck if it's cliche? Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be real. So let's reel our next question in. You see what I did there?
I like that. I like that.
What does your typical creative process look like? Is there a typical creative process, or do you do things sort of on the fly? Like, I was inspired riding the bus one day, so this is what I created. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it looks different all the time. I occupy a lot of different creative spaces, like in the educational world as well as just like in the creative world, and I feel like in both of those, my mind's always activated. And so, for example, like yesterday, I was at a jam session and people are just freestyling on and off the mic. They got drums going, and like instantly, I'm like, ooh, I got a raw flow right now. Like, let me open my voice recorder and put down that flow, and I'll probably find words to it later and like kind of work backwards. So a lot of times, like flows and words pop in my head just while I'm doing day-to-day things like walking or cleaning my room or in the shower. Like I have things just pop in my head. But I also have sit-down time where I like put on a beat, try to write to it. I feel like I start a lot more than I finish. I get a lot of bursts of creative inspiration, and I'll start like 10 songs, and then I'll go back and try to finish those demos. But yeah, it's a very forward, backward sort of process. It never looks the same though.
So, of all the songs in your discography, what is your favorite one to perform, and why is that your favorite song to perform?
You know, I think that really changes depending on how I'm feeling. I love to perform songs, though, that get the audience hype, just because it's so cool seeing people enjoy the music. I feel like when you're too close to the work, you don't enjoy it the same way. You know, it's like hearing your voice on a recording. It's like, oh, you know. But a song I've really been enjoying lately is Looking for a Reason off my recent project, and Sleeping Giant, because both of those get the audience really engaged, call and response with me, and they got so lit off Sleeping Giant this past year, they had me run it back, which was crazy. So yeah.
Exactly. Alrighty. So, Linda, if people are looking to find your work or get in contact with you, what is the best way that our audience members who are listening to The Dish or watching this video can find you?
Okay, if you're watching, hey, you can find me at _Linda Sol on all platforms. That's _LINDASOL. And if you're looking for me on streaming platforms, it's just Linda Sol. So catch me, reach out to me. I would love to connect with you, and yeah.
As always, if you are looking to continue dishing with us, you You can always find me on Instagram at Dish with Anissa. That is DishWithAneesah. No, that was not on purpose, but I like the way it sounds and it feels good coming out my mouth. So you can catch more of these interviews via our Instagram channels, social media. We are on Spotify as The Dish with Anissa. I am your wonderful, beautiful, most excellent host, Anissa Sheely, and this has been my interview with Linda Soul. Catch y'all on the flip side. Thank you for dishing me with me. Catch me. Ha! Catch you on the flip side. Thank you for dishing with me today. Mwah. Love y'all.